a lot of it is the environment you grew up in, and you grew up around these ideas. And if you went to public school, I mean, kids today especially, you go to public school, and you're there for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, 9 months a year for 12 or 13 years. And that's the culture there. And then the kid leaves, but they don't actually escape that culture because now they're on their phone, and they're just in that cloud all the time. And they're in a world where all these ideas are just assumed. You don't even question them. And especially if you can introduce, kids at a very young age, they don't even have the mental capacity to distinguish between fantasy and reality. They don't really have the capacity to be truly skeptical about something. Skepticism is a skill that you learn as you get older. They don't have that. So they'll just accept whatever you tell them. There's a reason why if you tell a 4-year-old that there's a fat man flying through the sky comes down the chimney, they just believe it. Like they might have a few questions, but the questions are all about the details about this fat guy. The questions aren't questioning the basic premise that you've presented to them. So if you can get to kids that young, then there's a good chance you'll have them forever, because this is just built into their minds. And this is one of the reasons why the left, this is why they were so upset about the so-called Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, which of course there was no such bill, but and all that bill was saying is don't talk to kids about this before 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And they treated that like some sort of apocalyptic scenario because they need to get to the kids before. They want to get to the kids in kindergarten when they're the most vulnerable, and you can just tell them anything and they'll believe it. And they'll probably, and for a lot of people, they just keep believing it. Most people never stop to analyze the beliefs that they've always held in their heads. Like no matter wherever you're on the spectrum, that's most people. You never stop and really scrutinize your own beliefs that you've always had.
It seems to me that the only thing that stops that is they're confronted by the realities of achieving things in the modern world, and that just getting responsibility, working, making your way through life. Those are the things that sort of turn people into having more conservative mindset.
I would hope so, and that's the assumption that I've always had. I think a lot of us had is that you hear about the college snowflakes, and once they get out into the real world,
right? But
they'll have
now the real world is kind of snowflakeified.
Exactly, because we forgot that. Well, they're the ones who are going to determine what the real world says. I mean, they don't get to determine reality, but we're gonna be in a country that they are running, that they are reshaping, and so in many cases it hasn't worked out that way. They get out into the real world, but the real world is still set up to affirm what they believe, and to insulate them from these harsh realities.
Which is one of the more bizarre aspects of all this shit to me, is that I don't necessarily see, this is why I'm asking you, where's this go? I don't see a clear path to logic and maturity. It doesn't seem like people are going to abandon some of these ideas that are not just ridiculous, but dangerous and probably ultimately detrimental for who knows what number of young people that are going to go down this road. Yeah. I don't see this clear, like there's going to come a point in time in their life where they're going to recognize. Like what's that old expression? Show me a young man who is not a liberal and I'll show you a man with no heart. Show me an old man who's not conservative and I'll show you a man with no brain.
Yeah.
Something like that. Isn't it going like that?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, but they've also been told that that opposing ideas are physically dangerous, and that if you're around opposing ideas, it could actually do you harm. And I think that they really believe that. I mean, think about if someone really believes that, takes that to heart. You're setting something up. I mean, Ben Shapiro shows up at this podcast conference, and they call his very presence harmful. It's not even. We've gone beyond ideas. It's like a person who has those ideas and isn't even speaking them. His presence, his essence is harmful to you.
We read the apology on air.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
He's
literally one of the biggest podcasters in the world, and you have a podcast conference.
It's a podcast. You'd think that you'd want him there. It's like line up to learn from this guy. He's one of the most successful podcasters in the world. But no, we don't want him there because his and it's like he didn't show up ranting a bunch of right-wing things. He just was taking pictures with people. But his presence is. It's quite terrifying too. It's almost a pre-genocidal language that you're using. When you start saying that that a certain category of people, their presence is harmful, that sets us up for some dark potential, I think.
It does. It does set us up for dark potential. Now, when you first started getting into political commentary and social commentary, the world was a much different place, and it wasn't so contentious.
I think it's, a lot of these things have gotten worse, but it was, I mean, you saw the seeds of it even back. I mean, it wasn't all that long ago, 10 years ago. I think it was still there, you know. One of the difference though was that social media existed and it had already taken over society, but you at least were allowed to, you know, for a while, social media was a forum for actual discussion. And it might not have been the most intelligent discussion all the time, but you could be exposed to both sides of any debate on social media for a period of time.
In the very least, you could develop a following.
Right. You could
so if your ideas resonated with other people, you could attract a group of people to come and pay attention to you or listen to you.
Yeah, that was the case for a while, but they shut that down. Maybe it'll change now with Elon Musk. I don't know.